Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's webinar. We have a fabulous webinar for you this morning or this afternoon, wherever you are, with some great panelists. And we're going to be talking about how do you effectively drive and measure your partner's marketing and sales success, which I know is a huge issue for a lot of companies just at the moment. We're hoping that we can provide some real practical tips and advice on the webinar. But very much, this is your webinar. It's a panel, so please do ask questions, and let us show you how to do that. So you have two ways of asking questions. If you look at your control panel, you can actually click on the icon. This will raise your hand and we can unmute you, and you can ask the question live. Alternately, if you look further down the control panel, you'll see a tab labeled questions. Just click on that, open it up, and you will be able to type in and ask a question of our panel. So really do want to make this as interactive as possible. So please do ask those questions. It's my job now to introduce our panelists. And our first panelist is Claudio. He's the Chief Strategy Officer of Perks Channel. And Claudio heads up Perks' worldwide channel incentive automation business. He's been doing that since 2015. And he has a pivotal role in building their award-winning product offering. Prior to Perks, Claudio led the channel practice at Hawkeye, Grassroots, and BitTime, and in fact has been in customer relationship management since 2000. He oversees corporate strategy development and delivery for all incentive automation solutions with a large team of channel and loyalty strategists. Sorry, I'm getting tongue-tied at the moment. He has a track record of successfully scaling SaaS incentive and loyalty businesses in both B2B and B2C for, as you can see, a large number of major brands. And basically, his goal is to inspire the creation of ideas that lead to change and constant performance improvement. I'm going to hand over to Claudio for literally 2 minutes, and Claudio's just going to give you a little bit more background on Perks as a company. So Claudio, over to you. Claudio, over to you.
Thank you, Rod. So Perks worldwide is an incentives automation vendor. We bring to market a cloud-based software solution set that allows the global enterprise, if you will, vendors, manufacturers, suppliers, to run their global channel incentive programs. I'm talking about your marketing development funds programs, rebate programs, and/or individual rewards programs. We are really the experts in incentive automation and management.
Awesome. And our next panelist is Heather. Many of you will know Heather. She's the CEO and founder of Spark, and she's also the founder and chairperson of Channel Maven Consulting. She is recognized as a channel marketing expert and sought after as a keynote speaker, so we're privileged to have her on the call today. She's passionate about enabling vendors and driving revenue through channel partners. She spent several years in channel programs and marketing for big brand tech companies, so she's been on the vendor side as well with EMC, EqualLogic, and Dell before starting her own business in 2009. She's a proud alumni of Babson's MBA program. She grew up in Massachusetts, but now calls Boulder home, where she lives with her husband and fellow entrepreneur Simeon and their 2 daughters and a dog. So Heather, over to you, and basically tell us a little bit about your company. And you are muted at the moment, so if you could unmute yourself.
Thank you so much, Rod. And I will try not to give Claudio a hard time today. I'll behave. Many of you know me as Channel Maven, as Rod mentioned. Channel Maven is still alive and doing well and being run by the amazing Jen Reed and Brad Rolfe. Spark Your Channel is an innovative demand generation company that helps businesses like yours, IT vendors, channel partners, and your sales teams better drive revenue. So the Spark Your Channel platform allows partners or salespeople to come in, customize videos, webinars, and podcasts with their own intro and outro, and then renders it in a trackable link so they can put it anywhere. There are no concerns with GDPR or CCPA or CAN-SPAM laws, but you as the vendor and sales leader still get to see how they're doing. So you can still see all of those analytics. That means that your partners are able to take and use that content. We have very large limits on how many partners can actually be using it, so it can go to their sales team as well, and then put it wherever they want it, and you still see how great that content or that campaign is doing.
Excellent. And our third panelist is Thaddeus Ward, and he currently works as an advisory leader in Salesforce's customer success group. He spent 20+ years in sales process and strategy consulting, and then actually wanted to get his hands on the technology itself. He's got experience working in developing products and leading implementations, and eventually moved to Salesforce, where he advises customers on the right mix of technology, governance, education, and in change management. He also has extensive experience supporting customers in the context of partner relationship management. So Thaddeus, Salesforce is a huge entity. Talk to us a little bit about the bit that you're representing today.
The bit, right? You know, Salesforce certainly known for the CRM components and connecting with customers, right? What a lot of folks don't realize is that we also have a complete partner lifecycle solution that really, you know, from treating the partner as a customer all the way through to connecting them to your customers. The entire partner experience is something we can manage. Folks like Heather and Claudia are often partners with us and leveraging the best practice and expertise they have around those things, really about accelerating time to value. Like from the time a partner is interested, the time that they're delivering revenue, to the time that they're making money with you, really what we're focused on. So we have about 5,000 of our customers are currently using our PRM solution. We've got about 11 million active partners in that and about 1 million monthly logins. So, and Forrester has endorsed us as one of the PRM leaders. So it's a big part of our business. It's a really complex part of the business. As you guys know, managing partners is a challenge. That's why I love it. So
excellent. So we wanted to start, we're talking today about how do you effectively drive and measure your partners' marketing and sales success. And we know that a lot of partners have been really challenged with things like remote selling, with things like the move away from events-based marketing to other forms of marketing. So we wanted to gauge where people on the call actually are today. So we're going to run to start with a couple of polls. So our first polling question is, as a result of the COVID crisis, has the budget available to your partners for sales and marketing, has it remained the same, increased, decreased, or you're not quite sure? Let's sense where we are with the amount of money we have available for our partners. So if everyone could answer that question now. Got about half the audience have answered at the moment. Want to get as many answers on this one as possible. So please pop in those answers. We'll keep the polling open for another 10 or 15 seconds. Get those answers coming in. Most of you have now answered. So we'll give it another few seconds just for the last ones. Okay, last 5 seconds, get those answers in. Okay, so Caleb, do you want to reveal the results of the poll? So 45% of us have the same budget. For a very small percentage, 4%, that budget has increased. And for 45% of us, the budget available for partners' sales and marketing is decreased. That's quite a substantial decrease in the amount of money available. And Heather, I know you've done a lot of work in this area. Do you want to add a few comments on that?
Absolutely. I think as many of us found ourselves in quarantine, we stood back and said, okay, where can I cut? And sales and marketing tends to be an easy place to do that. The challenge is now is really the time to build pipe. And as much as can be done to stay aware and stay in front of prospects and customers, and especially in technology, I feel like we were by far, depending on the type of technology, very needed. Everyone all of a sudden moved home. So ensuring that your partners realize that now is the time that they should be communicating to their prospects. It shifted, right? It came online. But I think it's still important that we're spending money.
Okay. Thaddeus, Claudio, any other thoughts on that?
Claudio, why don't you go first? It's fine.
No, go ahead, Thaddeus. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for the part of the world that I see in the sales force and the customers I'm working with, I don't really have visibility into what the budgets are, but I can say that what they're finding is partners are trying to figure out what to do with the money. Like they know they got it, they know they need to build pipe, they're worried about pipe, but a lot of customers are used to, a lot of the partners are used to investing in those face-to-face marketing, sending out an email so you can then go set up a visit. So figuring out and developing new skills on how to deploy that budget is the biggest gap that we've been seeing and trying to help people with.
Yeah, I would also add that, this poll result correlates with data that we have been seeing in deal registration, for example, across programs. And what we're seeing is that by March, end of March, number of deals registered started dipping, and together with that, revenue. And so I think definitely the disruption that the virus caused is now showing up in our dashboards. And remember, it's only been about 3 months, right? So it's about time that it did. And I agree with Thaddeus as well. Partners don't know, how to approach their buyers today. They have to do it digitally. And one thing that certainly happened during the pandemic, and it continues to happen, is that it has accelerated digital transformation. And therefore, it has increase the gap between the way partners sell and the way buyers buy. So it's definitely having an impact.
Okay, and that leads us very nicely on to, we'll get on to straight Q&A in a moment, but on to our second poll. How effective do you think your programs are in helping your partners move to digital marketing? And if everyone could vote on that. Well, about 50% of people voted. Keep those votes coming in. Really, really important we understand where we all are. This is, very important in terms of you understanding and being able to take back to your management where the industry thinks it is. So please get those votes coming in. We'll keep the polls open for another 10 seconds. Okay, got almost everyone voted. So last few seconds, get those votes in now, please. Okay, and Caleb, if you want to reveal the results. So how effective do you think your programs are in helping your partners move to digital marketing? Our panelists have already said that this is really, really critical, yet only 13% of us think we're very effective, 46% somewhat effective, 24% not very effective, and 18% either not effective at all or don't know. So don't know who wants to jump in on this one. Thaddeus, maybe you want to add a few comments here.
Yeah,
Yeah,
what's in? Oh,
Go ahead, Thaddeus. I read my hand, but that's fine.
Oh, sorry. What I think is interesting around this one is you think about the move, right? So is this about like you've got partners who are already good at digital, they're sort of digital natives in one form or another, and you're helping them, or are you helping people build new skills? Because what has happened is that digital has moved from being another channel to being the channel, and everything else is other, right? And so it's, guys, I know a lot of organizations who work with a lot of folks in the tech space who recruit and look for partners who are good at digital. It's great, but they aren't necessarily very helpful and effective in building those capabilities. And that's often the gap, right? It's, you know, people need to start making that move, and how enabling are you is really, I think, the question to ask right now.
Okay. Anyone else want to come in on this one?
Yeah, I would agree with the, you know, very effective percentage, because I see that out there. Top vendors are, you know, there is a framework of top vendors that are very effective. But for the most part, the rest are not. And I see a lot of those, and I'm mostly talking about the SMB partners, right? The enterprise level partners, you know, get it, but mostly the SMB side is really lacking effective programs to help them move to digital marketing. And what I'm talking about is, you know, educating them not just on the tools, but also in understanding the new buyer, the digital buyer, and how they need to modify their sales process to align with that new digital buyer. So education is, again, not just on how to use, you know, the tools and how to use some of it, but really understanding buyer's journey.
And Claudio, it's really aligned with what you do, Claudio. It's a very different set of behaviors and set of things that we should be incentivizing with our partners when they're actually doing full digital. So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, Heather.
No, it's okay. I would agree. I think, you know, we always talk about demand gen starts much earlier on in the channel relationship. So we always talk about educating partners on how to do demand gen, engaging partners the way you want them to then engage a customer. So that means your channel executives need to be out there and using digital and communicating with partners in that way so that they help form the habit. And then enabling partners to leverage digital. This means video. I mean, I can't stress enough how much more video is important than it was even 3 years ago. So engaging with your partners on video, teaching them how to use it. It takes literally 3 minutes to produce a very engaging video on a smartphone. And then enabling your partners, giving them the tools that they need to engage on video as well. And that includes things like what we're doing now, webinars and podcasts as well.
Excellent. We're going to do one final poll before we open it up for general questions. So please get those questions moving in. The other thing that partners are really struggling with is the move from being able to turn up at the CEO's office, sit in front of the CEO of the customer, and basically say, hey, what are we doing? How are we doing? What do we need to do? So how effective do you think your programs are in helping your partners move to remote selling? So if everyone could please vote on this now, that would be really cool. So please keep those votes coming in. Again, we've got about 50% of the people on the call have voted now. Let's get the rest of those votes in. We'll keep the poll open for another 10 or 15 seconds. So got about 70% of you, 75% have now voted. Please pop those answers in now. Okay. Caleb, if you could reveal the results of the poll. So in terms of helping partners move to remote selling, even fewer of us think we are very effective, just 2%. 52% somewhat effective, and that means if you exclude the 19% where we don't really know, 26% of us think we're either not very effective or not effective at all. Heather, I don't know if you would like to start and comment on this one.
Sure. I mean, I guess I'm surprised at the somewhat effective. I would love to hear what vendors are doing or have done. It's more than just getting on a video share and having that conversation. It's really about social selling and ensuring that partners know how to leverage things like LinkedIn, and that they have the resources they need to create videos so that they can send those along. Because getting on the phone is, you know, like step 7 in the sales cycle and probably step 15 in their own buyer's journey. So it's really important to ensure that your partners are tracking the buyer's journey and meeting the prospect where they need to be.
Excellent. Anyone else want to chip in on that one?
I was going to say, Rod, that this really underscores what we were saying earlier about teaching partners how to engage the new buyer, because you know, half what people say somewhat effective, and what I was saying even earlier was that I'm looking at cross-vendor deal registration numbers dropping substantially. If I remember correctly, about 17.5%, 18% below you know, January and February, and so somewhat effective, that's questionable, I think. I have not seen yet a very effective program out there. I'm sure they exist, but it's really impacting all types of different channel relationships. Again, mostly on the SMB side of the partner community, right? Where they're now, you know, in many instances, not even able to transact remotely. So definitely a big impact.
Okay.
And I'll jump right on the pain point. Those 19% down below of do not know. There's a great article in the New York Times yesterday. I saw, it's like, in the title, I remember the headline was, you know, working from home, what if this is permanent? And the opening vignette is about it's, you know, it's worth reading just the first 3 paragraphs about a robotics vacuum cleaner sales guy and how his life has changed and how he was panicked because he couldn't go, you know, run his vacuum cleaner through the halls of hotels he was selling to, and realized that that was completely unnecessary. And I think that what is happening and what is key is that so many of the assumptions that our partners have about what they need to sell are proving to be wrong. So many of like the habits and crutches that we have that we think were the magic secret sauce actually in today's world turn out to be just sort of useless habits that are crutches, right? They make us feel better. They don't actually add any value to our customers. And so for me, the key thing is to make sure you're structuring this so that you are learning from what is going on and learning from your partners, and really, like, whatever you can do to gather insights from what is actually working versus what you think should be working is really like that's the key to success right now.
I think on a positive note, the partners, you know, we've worked with our clients for years on this, teach your partners how to socially sell and put together programs and videos and speaking engagements. And now the partners, after 10, 11 years of us doing this, are saying, wait a second, what was that you were talking about a few years ago? How do I do that again? So they're very tuned in now. That's the bright side.
Excellent. So let's move to Q&A. And I have Nancy Miller has raised her hand. So Nancy, I'm going to unmute you now, or Caleb is going to unmute you now. Nancy, you're self-muted. So if you could unmute yourself and come in with a question.
Okay, is that better?
There you go.
Yeah, we can hear you.
In the first question, how effective are you at moving partners to digital marketing? It seems like not even half of the well, I guess about half of the people said somewhat or very, but what does that really mean? I know you mentioned teaching them how to use LinkedIn, but is there any way to elaborate on what those activities really consist of? Because that's a pretty broad question.
I'd be happy to jump in there. Hi, Nancy. I think it's if you can take a step back and think of yourself as a consumer. So someone you never met and aren't connected with on LinkedIn and don't recognize their name or their company sends you 3 emails in a series of 3 weeks, and each of those emails has a piece of content that you need to download and sit down and read. When's the last time you actually clicked on one of those, read it, and said, "Oh, this is definitely what I need," and responded to them?
Well, I think on a personal note, I might get something to do with financial advisors or something, and if it sounds like, and it's typically not downloading it at an asset, it's maybe committing myself to a 30-minute webinar. I just actually did that last week, but it has to be relevant to me at the time.
Yeah. So I think a lot of the tools that our partners have at their fingertips today, people are getting bombarded by emails. If it's an HTML email with a banner, like I can't delete it fast enough. So we really need to ensure that our partners are doing all the right things. That's not to say that email is wrong or bad or they shouldn't do it, but there has been a huge shift in the last 5 to 10 years in how the part that email plays, and that it's not the central engine and should really be a cog in the machine. And yet a lot of the resources that our partners have at their disposal are still very email heavy, very static content heavy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would add another one, which teaching partners how to recognize demand, right? If they know how to advertise digitally, socially, and otherwise, they have to understand how to recognize demand type from that new buyer. And remember, today's buyer isn't a single person. It's a group of people that may be in 4 or 5 regions of the world. How do you recognize that? Right. So there is a lot of education that needs to happen for partners to become more effective remotely.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got another question, which is part question, part comment that's just been typed in. So keep these questions coming in. This is very, very cool. And it's part question, part comment. It's we really need to understand partners' demand generation capabilities and the fact that partners' core competency is not marketing. And how do we address that?
Zero. Again, on the SMB space of the ecosystem, they don't even have a dedicated marketing person. Very, very few do. Heather?
They do. It's the receptionist. Right.
It is. We know that because when we put together, incentive programs to educate the marketing role at the partner level, we have less than 10% of partners actually pick up on that because they just don't have that person. So it's very small.
That's
so
part of
what's
why.
So what's the answer, folks? What should we be doing to address the issue of the lack of marketing capabilities on the part of the partner? Do we move to concierge?
Thaddeus would agree.
What do we need to do?
Yeah, building a marketing accreditation track and educating partners, again, on using tools, on recognizing buyers' journeys and buying stages and scenarios. Definitely.
I think, what from our perspective, it's we Salesforce technology, right? We sell technology, but partners don't work with our customers because of the technology. Like, so being really clear about what it is, why does a partner choose you and over some other potential partner they could be working with, is really key here. And I think there's a huge, this is actually an opportunity to add value, because marketing for a lot of the partners was just sort of taken for granted in the past. They had their network, they had their friends, it was good. They didn't even understand marketing. Now, all of a sudden, there is a subset of your partners who would really like to understand this. And this is an opportunity to build loyalty, to build enablement, to differentiate yourself as a partner to them. So.
I totally agree. I also think the content that you give them to be able to spread out, so giving them a webinar in a box where they need to figure out what platform they're going to run it on and how they're going to get, 20, 30, 100 people on this webinar, versus you record the webinar and allow them to send that out and to speak to it intelligently, I think is much more. We spent so many years talking about partnerizing things, and now I think it's actually okay to give the partners either something that doesn't have your brand on it at all and speaks to business outcomes, or something that does have your brand on it, but have them introduce it so that they're giving their contact info in the long run.
Yeah, I would add also that many vendors out there are recruiting new partners. And so, as Tadeusz was mentioning, it's important that you recognize that just like there is a buyer's journey, there is a partner's journey as well, that all partners embarked in when making the decision to engage with a given brand or vendor, right? In the first 3-4 stages of that journey, the partner journey, is all about an offer, right? And that's where you need to communicate very effectively about what you have that is going to attract them and make them loyal. A lot of the times, it's brand recognition, is MDF money, right? And rebates and training and enablement. And so you have to present those new partners with those options. And that's a good opportunity also to engage and educate and identify, these new marketing roles, which is really a new persona that you need to identify at the partner level these days.
Okay.
My final comment around this one is this is a great time to experiment. It's a great, like the rule book has been thrown out the friggin' window. Now is the time to play around and experiment and try A and B and C and see what the heck sticks. And they're willing to do it too. So.
Yeah, COVID gives you the opportunity to do A/B testing on MDF. How about that?
A through F. Forget A/B.
That's true. That is true.
Okay, got another great question coming in. In fact, I've got lots of questions coming in, so keep them coming through, folks. And the question is, someone mentioned a marketing accreditation course. Could you give more insight as to how companies have done this, or what best of breed actually looks like?
Yeah, it's very tactical, right? You start by identifying first that marketing role at the partner level. And obviously, I'm assuming here that you have partner profiling done, right? And you understand your different partner profiles and your different partner go-to-markets. And you're obviously going to pick and choose some of those. Once you've done that and you have an area of focus, the first thing is to identify that marketing person. The second thing, obviously, is going to be about educating that marketing person on the basics of marketing, right? The real basics things about digital marketing. And it could be about, how you do content syndication. And so one of the best practices is actually building these courses. Let's use the content syndication one. And, we put an incentive on educating that person, teaching them. But we take that and then give them an additional incentive for actually executing content syndication, right? So one thing is the learning about how you do it, but the next thing is actually getting it done. And so we follow those individuals along with incentives, right, to ensure they get them done. And once it's done, we give them an additional incentive for actually sharing that socially, right, through their own networks. And that's just a very basic example. And then you can take it layer by layer all the way to the top, demand generation. And I'm sure Heather can give you all the details on that.
I want to
Heather,
make
do you
sure
want to come in on this one? Very much in
Sure.
your wheelhouse.
Absolutely. So education is huge. I think it's part accreditation, and it's part just giving them the resources that they can watch and listen to whenever they want. So a 5-minute video about how to leverage LinkedIn to better prospect is super helpful and something that partners will appreciate, and keep tuning into your other content as well if you're giving them that piece. The other thing I want to touch on is, I think one of the biggest challenges we've faced in the past 20 years when we've been doing through channel demand gen is that it's always been about the marketer that they don't necessarily have. So we really need to start thinking about how we get resources, educational materials, marketing, what we have in the past called marketing materials, videos, webinars, podcasts in the hands of the salesperson, because that's the person who's actually prospecting and doing it correctly, knows how to do it. And they need to be able to use that in their own platform. They're not going to log into a TCMA and do that.
Well, I have to put in a pitch for Trailhead. And I put it, Trailhead is our learning management platform. We make it publicly available. And it's a good way to operationalize this kind of enablement, because it's open to people. People sign in, they register for it, they get badges for it, they can communicate about it. It gives them, as Claudio was saying, a credential they can share and something you can track. The other thing I've seen it used quite cleverly for is actually a prospecting tool for partners, right? So the partner who registers for how to market web services becomes a lead in your partner program too. So lots of options there.
Yeah, one other example that I thought of from what Tadeus is saying is you all have playbooks, sales playbooks, right?
Yeah.
Well, you can actually use that sales playbook as that guide, right, to engaging the buyer and then delivering the right content at the right time and understanding demand type. So, you have these things out there. We just need to identify them and then put incentives behind them to ensure that they get done.
Yep.
Okay, got another great question coming in, which relates to this, and the question is, a lot of our partners are smaller partners. Education's a problem. We've had tremendous success with concierge marketing. How do the panel feel about this?
Well, I know I'm here on behalf of Spark, but we do a ton of concierge with Channel Maven, and part of our model with Spark is that you spend less on the platform and more on the human element. Like, I just think at the end of the day, people need to have a very custom program, and the only way to do that is to have a human on the other side who can give them advice based on what they're already doing, what's worked and what hasn't, what they have at their fingertips. And we've said it maybe a dozen times so far, partners are not marketers. That is not their first line of business. So giving them that person or access to that person that can help them with that is huge.
And I'll add that we've seen a shift in MDF spend going from, in-person events, and I'm talking about partner events, right? That's not happening anymore. And so top performing vendors are actually moving the budget into concierge services, right? They realize that they're going to need to support some specific partners out there. So part of that budget, can be allocated there. They're also reallocating MDF to near sales activities, okay, as well as enablement, of course, and even, believe it or not, reward and recognition schemes to keep partners engaged, right? Now that we're all digital, we lost that personal touch, and so some of the recognition and engagement components are definitely, keeping those partners top of mind. I mean, the vendors top of mind with the partners.
Thaddeus, do you want to comment on that one?
Nope,
You're good?
all good. I endorse
Excellent.
what I just heard. It's great.
Okay. Moving on to distance selling. A lot of things that we hear from partners are that, you know, they're so used to sitting in the CEO's office of their customers. They're struggling with the move to distance selling. They're struggling, and that's going to continue to some extent as lockdown eases. What programs, what advice can you guys recommend for the people on the call where they can help their partners overcome this issue?
Well, I'll start by jumping on this one. The first one is suck it up and get used to it, because it's not changing. I work in South America, which has been highly face-to-face focused, and looking at our customers across the world, like, you know, had to have people on site. And now all of a sudden they've been doing this for 3 or 4 months, and they're going, oh my God, I'm so much more efficient. I'm so much more productive. I'm so much happier doing it this way. So the headline is, you got to figure it out, because this is the new normal. The habits that are being imprinted that people are now doing for 3 or 4 months, those habits aren't just going to go away. This is the way life is going to be, and face-to-face is going to be a much smaller piece of our world in general, in pretty much every dimension. So in terms of enabling it, I mean, a lot of it is, I mean, we've talked about all the tools, we've talked about all the things that help make the connections. I mean, it's a different skill set as well, right? The way that you connect, learning how to connect virtually, learning how to get comfortable with the camera, using the camera, offering, when our customer base here started moving to working remotely, we were doing webinars for our partners about how do you run a meeting virtually, and offering, in some cases, we were even offering coaching to partners about how to get it done. So be the model, engage them effectively that way, show them what they should be doing, and be ready to coach and invest.
Yeah, I would say that is true for existing, I'm sorry, Heather, you know, accounts for client basis. But I think partners struggle with acquisition, as in, you know, generating demand and bringing in new accounts. Heather?
That's the harder part. Yep.
I would agree. So filling that funnel, giving them access to things like Sales Navigator, paying for that access for them, and then training them how to use it. We use Sales Navigator with clients constantly, and partners just go, oh, that's so easy. And it's so training them how to create super easy videos on their phone that they can send out to try to engage someone. Someone's more likely to click on a video than they are to open a one-pager or an ebook. And then go old school. So we have been sending, ready, mail, like with stamps and boxes. And, you know, we have a client who's about to do a partner summit, and another whose partner was about to do an event. And we got these super cute little branded boxes. Everything's recycled materials. I don't want to hear from everyone. I live in Boulder. Trust me, I'm like of the original tree huggers. And things like hand sanitizer and this cute, I'm not going to take it off because it'll mess up my earbuds, but a cute little stand for your earbuds and your watch and your phone, and just getting really creative with promotional items so that, you know, hey, I'd love to send you a pizza. Here's a coupon for a pizza if you get on the phone with me from 12 to 1 sometime next week.
Yeah, welcome kits. Those things really work.
Yes.
We've done sending virtual coffee to, like, virtual coffee hours and coffees delivered to people's homes as part of this, right? So, and like I said, get creative, help them be creative. So alcohol wipes, yeah, exactly. You know, it's a great time to be playing around with stuff. It really is.
Well, and we all talk about the branded, right? Everyone had like the branded shirt. So now, what about a branded mask?
Absolutely.
Excellent. And we're all being asked to measure things, measuring partners' sales ability, measuring partners' marketing success. Have you got some guidance on how to do that without making this, because too many people are saying, okay, I've got to close the loop, I've got to understand this. And actually what they're doing is just making it 10 times more difficult for the partners, because they're saying, now you've done this, now you've got to feed all this information into our system. And particularly at the moment when partners are under stress, that's probably the worst thing you could be doing. So have you got any advice or guidance on what to do? Maybe Thaddeus, I can throw that one over to you to start with.
Yeah, this is one of my, like, get me on a soapbox really quickly items. If you have to ask your partners to do additional work to update you on what they've done, something's wrong, right? The system is broken, especially now that everything's digital. Every action you take in the digital world leaves a fingerprint and a footprint. Leverage that. Right? You should not have to send out a survey saying, oh, how successful was your sales? What was the event like? No, the event was a webinar. You know how many people signed in. You know when they signed out. You know how long they were there for. You know how many questions they asked. Do not ask partners to provide you with this information. You should be collecting it from the work they're doing with you and in your systems.
I would add to that, and you were spot on to those there, that you have to start with your key performance indicators. Yeah, you have to start with your metrics. Okay, don't start designing a program with the graphic design and what it is you want to do. Go back to the basics, right? So what do I have that I can measure success with? Okay, and I can influence step by step. Start with the key performance indicators.
I would also be careful to rethink your key performance indicators. So, as we're talking to people, Spark does not have email. Like, we want the partner sending the email either through their PRM or through their own marketing automation tool, because they'll get a better response, and then they're not blasting people from 5 or 10 different platforms. Key performance indicators are things like number of clicks and is it statistically significant. So if one partner gets 100 clicks and another partner gets 2,000, and the partner with 2,000 has a better quarter the following quarter, that was statistically significant. Please stop with the opens and the this domain and that domain and this domain. It's more about them getting out there. Let them push content to social without you having to measure that. That's them building awareness and being a good thought leader and being somebody that people are going to follow. So yes, the sales cycle gets longer and it's harder for you to measure each individual quarter. Like, Q1 spend does not specifically dictate Q2 revenue, but at the end of the day and the end of the year, you will be so much more successful.
Yep. Take the time to connect your leading indicators, your lagging indicators, right? So all the things about your clicks and your this and your that, you think those are indicators of success. Well, periodically you need to go back and look at your best performing, financially best performing partners and how many clicks did those people actually do and what were they clicking? Because that's the success path and that's what you want to incentivize and that's what you want to enable.
Yeah.
If you look at it from the incentive perspective, MDF programs, rebate programs, SPIF programs are lagging indicators, right? You get the data after a transaction has happened. You're not going to be successful measuring that, right? It's your promotions that are going to be your leading indicator. So how many people enroll in that promotion? How many people are active in that promotion? How many deals am I capturing, daily, weekly, monthly? That's where you need to focus on.
And the people who came in 4th through 10th of some sort of an incentive competition are the ones who the following quarter are going to build their habits more and do even better. Because coming in 4th is maybe the worst thing that can happen if there's a medal for 1 through 3.
Right. That's what happened when you run it, with lagging indicators, right? Everybody always wins. The same people, the same partners always walk away with a bounty. Nobody else can. So you got to move away from the transaction into the behavior.
Yeah.
Okay. I've got another question coming in, which is really good. And let's get real specific on this one if we can, guys. You talked about new KPIs for marketing and for sales. Would someone like to be real specific about what those KPIs actually should be? Heather, you're nodding there.
So I would say partners that look at your education, partners that leverage your resources, regardless of how they leverage them, as long as you can see that they're customizing something and getting clicks on it. I know clicks in the grand scheme of things from demand gen, clicks aren't that important, but for your partners to be able to know that they at least sent it out somehow, that they're getting clicks on it, and then their engagement with those prospects and bringing you in. So it's a more manual tracking system. And I'm very interested to hear what Thaddeus and Claudio think, because they have very specific measurements. But I think measuring how many clicks they're getting, what resources they are using, and how often they're engaging with your platforms.
Yeah, I would add that.
Right, okay, Claudio, over to you. KPIs, what should they be? Heather's mentioned a couple. What else should be in there?
I have a list a mile long, right, that we use, and these are all activities and then behaviors and the associated metrics. Okay, so just like Heather pointed out, how many people click through, right? But you have an investment number in there. So I have a list. I can send a list to whomever is interested. It's a pretty big list,
Right.
but it allows you flexibility.
But they're micro behaviors, right? Like they engage
Right.
prospects on LinkedIn. That's huge. They're doing it right if they do that.
Right. They sent 1,000 invitations to, a webinar. How many people register? How many people showed up? Right. How many opportunities came out of that webinar? How many follow-ups? Right. Let me have that list and upload it to Salesforce. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Of course, the right answer, Claudia. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. One of the things that we're tracking all the time now is things like the virtual engagement, the conversations, the webinars, any place where your partners can click through to use your tools. You can gather information about how they're using those tools. But what I think will be interesting is what's out there right now that's driving success we can't see yet, right? So trying to figure out, like, being really open and really looking hard at questioning your assumptions about what are the right KPIs. And if you've got partners who are being like successful, it's sometimes a surprise. What are they doing? Right. I think the key thing for me right now is the quest for what is the new KPI in this world for your marketplace. Because it's for most of our marketplaces, it's really different than what it was 4 months ago. So.
And I would say go look at your past analytics. So people will come to me and say, I need a campaign in a box with 5 emails and 4 pieces of content, none of which is multimedia, by the way, and a microsite and an event in a box and a webinar in a box and all of this other stuff. And I'll say, okay, great. Go back and see how your other materials that you spent $40,000 on have done. Like, what have partners actually used and what has actually moved the needle, and not a fraction of it. So really go back and look at, do you need that microsite? Do you need to make sure that they're socially syndicating everything? Do you need to make sure that or not socially syndicating, excuse me, website syndicating everything? Like, look at actual metrics and see what's drawing a consumer in, and think of yourself as a consumer. Like, would you download a 15-page white paper and read it from a company that you weren't familiar with and you didn't even realize you had the pain point yet? Partners have so much access to content that allows them to nurture the funnel and very little that allows them to fill the funnel.
Yeah, I just want to end with the fact that we have a framework that allows vendors to actually identify these activities and behaviors, and I can make it available to anybody who needs it.
And Claudia, I wanted to build off of your data. Like, overall registrations are down. I'm willing to bet that even if that's the trend in your partner base, your partner community overall, that somewhere in there's some partner that has significantly increased their deal reg in their funnel. Yeah. Go talk to those people. Yeah. They're out there. They are out there.
Yep.
Excellent.
Maybe those partners, have allowed this to dip only about 15%, right? I am absolutely, aligned with that thinking. As a matter of fact, one of the common best practices we use is we go look at successful partners. We understand what it is they're doing that is different than the ones that are not being successful, and then we build promotions around those specific behaviors
Exactly.
that make those partners successful, and
Yeah.
and expose them to that same type of partner, right? So definitely that's one method, and that's why we built a framework for that we provide vendors.
Okay, we've still got a number of questions here. So what I'm going to do is, we're pretty much out of time. We will ask our panelists to answer those questions, and they will be posted along with a copy of the video. So everyone on the call will get a link to that and to the questions, and our panelists promise that they'll get the answers to those questions back to us tomorrow. So it'll all be beautifully posted by the end of tomorrow. There's putting pressure on some people.
There's a KPI. There's a KPI for you.
There's a KPI. But I'd like to say a huge thank you to Claudio, to Heather, and to Thaddeus for some great insights and some great advice. Really good job, guys. Thank you very, very much indeed. And we look forward to seeing everyone on the call on the next of the Channel Focus series of webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.